Fired by Russell Burrell, struck and killed both Michael Martin and Damian Colon.
I think about precious little Thea, Todd's beautiful baby girl that will never get to know her daddy.
Shaika stated she reached over her mother's shoulder and shot or fired her gun.
In a triple murder investigation, a teenager confessed to killing a young couple and their friend during a robbery at a Providence housing project in July 2012. More than a year and a half after this crime, one of the accused killers pleaded guilty, and the prosecutor shared chilling new details about the case. 18-year-old Russell Burrell stood before a judge and confessed to shooting and killing 3 people in Providence in July 2012. 22-year-old Shaika Barros, her boyfriend, 23-year-old Michael Martin, and their friend, 22-year-old Damian Colon. 3 other people were also charged with the murders. One pleaded guilty back in March, while the other 2 are still awaiting trial. The prosecutor revealed that the triple murder followed a planning session where the accused specifically targeted Michael Martin.
There's a discussion among all of them about the fact that Michael Martin was soft. That is, that those present thought that Mr. Martin would be an easy target for a robbery. The group discussed the fact that Mr. Martin would likely have marijuana and money at the apartment.
The prosecutor stated that Russell Burrell, along with another man and a boy, entered Michael Martin's apartment, where Burrell began firing a 9mm Glock handgun.
Fired by Russell Burrell, struck and killed both Michael Martin and Damian Colon. As Russell Burrell was firing at Mr. Martin and Mr. Colon in the kitchen, Shaika Barros woke up from the couch in the living room.
Shaika Barros might have wished she had never woken up. An Albuquerque man will spend over a decade in prison for a 2021 murder at a gas station. Darian Mells pleaded guilty to second-degree murder for killing Roderick Thompson. In August 2021, Thompson and his wife stopped at the Chevron gas station at San Mateo and Indian School. An argument broke out between Thompson and Mells, who then pulled out a gun and shot Thompson in the head. Mells did not speak in court, but his attorney mentioned that Mells regrets what happened.
This was a bad chapter in his life. He can turn it into something really wonderful if he wants to. And he's expressed that to me, Your Honor, and I believe him.
Judge Clara Moran sentenced Mells to 16.5 years in prison. Family members of the murder victims had their chance to speak out when a man admitted his role in a deadly revenge shooting. Tony Patet pleaded guilty to aggravated murder in the deaths of 2 men during a drive-by shooting. Prosecutors described it as a murder for hire, carried out in retaliation for a previous shooting. Shockingly, the drive-by occurred just hours after the funeral of one of the previous shooting victims during one of Hamilton's most violent summers. On August 3, 2016, Orlando Gilbert and Todd Barris were shot and killed in a drive-by on Central Avenue in Hamilton. Prosecutors said it was retaliation for a prior shooting at a doubles bar on Hamilton's west side. The triggerman, Tony Patet, pleaded guilty.
I think about precious little Thea, Todd's beautiful baby girl that will never get to know her daddy. Todd would have been a good father, but because of you, he will never get that opportunity, and he will never see his little girl grow up.
Assistant Prosecutor Brad Burris read a letter from Todd Barris's mother in court.
Todd was my firstborn and my only son, and you took him away from me, his sisters, his nephew, his daughter, and all of his friends and family. Because of you and your actions, our lives have been destroyed.
Prosecutors stated that Orlando Gilbert was the intended target. His father, Leroy Brown, spoke directly to Patet in court.
But Tony, you can look at the judge who holds your fate to your freedom, but you can't look at the family members of those you harmed. My wife just wants you to look at her.
Judge Greg Stevens informed Brown that he couldn't compel Patet to respond, but then Patet did precisely that.
Can you just look at them, Tony? Look at them. Those are the people whose lives you affected.
Patet held back tears as he looked at the family members. One of his attorneys mentioned that Patet now feels remorse. It was following this shooting a year ago that city leaders in Hamilton, along with clergy and police, called for peace in the community. Shaika Minor, a 24-year-old woman who was once on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, has been bound over for trial. She's accused of killing a pregnant woman. It was a tense day in court as the family members of Tamika Perry, the pregnant woman Minor is accused of killing, saw her for the first time since the shooting. The incident occurred on March 6th at a duplex near 30th and Burley. Family members, who have chosen not to appear on camera, mentioned that Perry had been arguing with Minor's mother, who lived in the unit above.
What happened to the fetus as a result of Miss Perry being shot?
At the scene.
The state alleges that Minor arrived after being called by her mother and eventually shot Perry as her mother tried to break up the fight before fleeing the scene. Detective James Hensley testified that Minor admitted to this during an interview.
Shaika stated she reached over her mother's shoulder and murdered her.
When questioned by Minor's attorney, the detective confirmed that a man who lived with Perry owned a gun.
And that individual was acting in a potentially threatening manner to Shaika Minor or her mother?
No, she did not say that.
After about 10 minutes of testimony from just one witness, a court commissioner determined there was probable cause for Minor to stand trial. The suspect arrested for murder in the South Valley is the brother of Fabian Gonzalez. Just a few weeks ago, he testified at his brother's trial in the killing of Victoria Martins, claiming to be a productive citizen. Deputies say Joseph Gonzalez shot and killed a driver after an argument outside his house. This incident follows his testimony at his younger brother Fabian's trial last month.
There's allegations that you might be dangerous. Are you dangerous?
No.
Neighbors mentioned that they didn't know anyone in the neighborhood who really liked Gonzalez and described him as unfriendly. According to the criminal complaint, Gonzalez called 911. When deputies arrived, they found him armed with a handgun. The 44-year-old Gonzalez claimed that Dylann had been speeding near his home. When Gonzalez testified at his brother's trial, the state questioned him about any gang affiliations.
Who's in this picture?
My two brothers and someone that's no longer with us.
And they're all wearing the same hat?
They were funny like that. They like to color coordinate. You can see the plaid red shorts as well.
They like to wear red?
They like red.
The victim, Abner Antillon, was a Rio Grande High graduate who was studying psychology and working at the college as a mentor to other students. Antillon's family members described him as kind, funny, and charismatic. Tragically, his wife is pregnant, and they planned a baby shower. According to online court records, Joseph Gonzalez has a troubling history of arrests, including charges of child molestation, domestic violence, and an incident where he tried to take a car from a repo man's parking lot, leading to a fight over it. According to court documents, shortly after Victoria Martin's death, Fabian Gonzalez boasted about being a member of a group known as TCK, which stands for Thugs Causing Chaos, and mentioned that his two brothers were founding members. He had even contacted members of the gang, including his brother, shortly after the killing. Former and current gang detectives have revealed that TCK started as a graffiti gang but gained notoriety in April 2003, when police linked 4 of its members to the shooting deaths of 2 teenagers at Pat Hurley Park. Greg Marcantil, who was a homicide detective for the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, investigated several of the gang's crimes more than a decade ago.
We didn't take them very serious, and then there was a point in 2003 when we began to identify them in some homicides that we realized that we had committed a cardinal sin.
The homicides at Pat Hurley Park ignited a violent feud between TCK and a rival gang, the West Side Locos, which lasted until around 2007. This conflict came to a head when Albuquerque police arrested several TCK members connected to the death of a 19-year-old whose burned body was found in West Mesa. TCK included some of the city's most notorious criminals, like Andrew Romero, who was convicted of killing Rio Rancho police officer Greg Benner and had TCK tattooed on his neck. During the 2000s, TCK members were linked to numerous violent crimes over a 4-year span. However, after about a half-dozen TCK members were arrested in 2007, the gang virtually disappeared and lost its leadership. Some members were still arrested for property crimes as late as 2015. Gonzalez's attorneys argue that the prosecution's claims of a gang connection to Victoria Martins' death are the result of a desperate investigation trying to draw a link where there isn't one. Greg Marcantel, who was not involved in the Martins investigation, remarked that any planned gang activity as the motivation behind Martins' killing would be unusual. Nikolai Mew was involved in a high-profile case where he was accused of fatally stabbing a teen during a confrontation at the Apple River in Wisconsin on July 30th, 2022. Mew claimed he acted in self-defense, asserting that he was attacked by a group of people before the stabbing took place. Before his sentencing for his role in the Apple River stabbing, Mew addressed the court and the judge.
Dear parents, family, and friends of Isaac, I would like to start by letting you know how deeply sorrowed I am, and I will always be, for the real fact that Isaac is not with you anymore, and that I was directly involved in his very tragic and unimaginable death at such an early age. I never meant for this tragedy to occur. My soul is broken. My heart is very heavy. And I will never be the same carrying such a heavy burden and sorrow. I pray to God for forgiveness, compassion, and love for everyone affected directly and indirectly by the outcome of this tragic event. I'm hoping that you appreciate how much I'm sorry for the outcome of those events. I'm very sorry.
In August 2023, Nikolai Mew was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole after being convicted of first-degree intentional homicide and 4 counts of attempted first-degree intentional homicide. New charges have been filed against 24-year-old Robert Solis, the accused killer of Sergeant Sean Rios. Prosecutors have brought charges for 2 separate incidents, stating that Solis not only shot at a vehicle in a road rage confrontation, but also assaulted a store clerk. In addition to being charged with the murder of Sergeant Rios, Solis now faces 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for incidents that occurred earlier.
Mr. Solis, you're charged with murder.
24-year-old Robert Solis appeared in court wearing a yellow jumpsuit. Prosecutors stated that Solis and Sergeant Sean Rios were involved in a shootout that resulted in Sergeant Rios' death.
Sean Rios, who was shooting from the outside of the Cactus King, run away from the scene, while the male in the white outfit referring to this defendant continued to fire his weapon at the complainant.
Prosecutors presented the probable cause for the murder charge against Robert Solis. They also detailed the aggravated assault incidents Solis is accused of committing. The most recent assault occurred less than a month ago and was described as a case of road rage. Prosecutors stated that Solis was tailing someone he knew from high school.
At that time, said the defendant told the complainant, "I'm going to pop you," and got out of his car. The complainant saw the defendant with a gun. The complainant stated he was in fear of his life, so started backing up as fast as he could to get away, which at that time the defendant fired several rounds into his vehicle.
The second incident took place earlier in the year. Police reported that Robert Solis went to a gas station to buy cigarettes, and when the clerk asked for ID, Solis threw it at the clerk and challenged him to a fight. The altercation escalated outside, where someone else pistol whipped the clerk.
As the defendant gets into that same Mercedes that's used in our car, he pulls out and points it at the complainant as he's leaving.
Prosecutors also argued for a higher bond, stating that Solis was involved in a very dangerous gang.
This gang is known for selling drugs and prostitution of underage victims. They commit and are involved in numerous murders around Harris County and Houston.
Solis's bond was set at $100,000 for each aggravated assault charge, while the bond for the murder charge was set at $500,000. Police have stated that they are searching for another suspect who may be connected to this case. A man accused of going on a one-man crime spree, including the kidnapping and rape of a DoorDash driver, faced a Tampa judge this afternoon. Joseph Killen requested release from jail, but the judge ruled against him, deciding on no bond. He will remain in prison after the judge heard damning testimony against him. It wasn't a difficult decision for the judge. Prosecutors say that Joseph Killen went on a violent crime spree, and now he is seeking release. During a bond hearing, prosecutors fought to keep him behind bars. The lead detective described how Killen viciously attacked the food delivery driver at gunpoint, and then the victim herself took the stand, sharing with the judge the horror she endured.
So I started crying, and I started telling him, like, please no, like, don't make me do it, like, I'll just leave and like never tell anyone about it. You can take my jewelry, you can take my coat bag. Like I just want to go home. Like I'm not gonna tell anyone. He was basically telling me that if I didn't do that, he was gonna kill me or rape me.
At any time, did you ever want to do this?
No. I just did it because I was scared of not seeing my family again.
At any time, did you ever want to do this?
No. I just did it because I was scared of not seeing my family again.
You're a coward, sir. You're a coward for attacking these women. You're a coward with a propensity for violence. There is no way I would release you.
On the night of April 18th, Joseph Killen kidnapped and raped a DoorDash driver after she stopped to make a delivery. Detectives believe what might have saved her life was that she had her AirPods on and was talking to her girlfriend at the moment Killens approached her. The girlfriend was able to call for help, and the victim's family tracked her phone, ultimately rescuing her at the apartment complex. During the rescue, Killen fired his gun, injuring a family member related to the victim's girlfriend before fleeing the scene. Fortunately, the injured victim is expected to survive. However, Killen's crime spree didn't end there. The next day, detectives say he attacked another woman at the same apartment complex and stole her backpack. He is also facing charges related to this additional crime.
At any time, did you ever want to do this?
No. I just did it because I was scared of not seeing my family again.
At any time, did you ever want to do this?
No. I just did it because I was scared of not seeing my family again.
The judge was ready to decide after hearing the mounting evidence against Killen.
You're a coward, sir. You're a coward for attacking these women. You're a coward with a propensity for violence. There is no way I would release you.
In August 2023, Joseph Killen was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole after being convicted of first-degree murder. In 2010, Sabrina O'Neill was tragically gunned down. At the time, her loved ones pleaded with the killers to come forward and turn themselves in.
She means everything to me. And it would mean everything in the world if the person who did it just come forward.
In January, Taji Pearson, the last of 5 co-defendants with an open case, was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. However, that sentence was overturned.
I confirm that it was turned over to the defense.
At any point in the 11-year history of the case?
No, Judge. It does not appear to have been turned.
Prosecutors admitted that some evidence was not disclosed to Pearson's attorneys, which led to the defense attorney, Michelle, claiming misconduct by the former prosecutor on the case.
While none of this stuff points to actual innocence of Mr. Pearson, this is all stuff that I had the right to have, so when they were sitting on that stand, I could cross-examine them on it.
Michelle argued that the hidden evidence could have been crucial in challenging the witnesses who testified against her client during the trial. Pearson's case is now one of several in which Miami-Dade state attorneys have been accused of not following court policies. In March, the former prosecutor, who was once the lead prosecutor on the case, resigned after a judge found that he had manipulated witness testimony, concealed evidence, and acted recklessly during a death penalty case involving a notorious gang leader.
This is kind of the dust that has been stirred from that order, from cases that Michael Van Zant prosecuted. I don't think that the dust is done stirring yet.
The newly assigned prosecutors for Pearson stated that vacating his life sentence was the best option to avoid a new trial. As a result, a man who was once facing life in prison for his involvement in a teen's death will now be free in less than 2 years.
15 years in Florida State Prison, followed by 4 years of reporting probation.
Pearson's attorney believes there are more cases where the state attorney's office should be re-examined for errors, advocating for transparency and upholding justice. In 2020, in Cleveland, Daniel McDaniel took the life of police detective and informant James Skirnovitz. When a child loses their father to external causes, words cannot fully express the emotions they endure.
It always confused me, but he is my dad because I knew him and spent time with him. And everyone says I look like him. Anyone close to us knows we didn't have a relationship. But that doesn't mean I never thought about him or cared. I've gone through life mostly alone, making my way. But something has always been missing for me. I was never sure what it was, until the day I got the news that he had been killed. I didn't know what to think at first. To be honest, I didn't feel anything. After a certain point, I gave up thinking about him, and I just put it away. But that day, the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I had lost something. I'd lost what's been missing. Something so important to me that I had ignored for so long. Something I never truly had. My dad. I lost my dad. The person I needed to look up to and to talk to get advice from and learn from. I feel every son needs a father, and every son wants to make his father proud. I know I did. Would he be proud of me if he knew me? Would we get along? Would we share rock music together? Did he love and care about me? Did he think about me or miss me? These are questions I will hang on to for the rest of my life, and I will never have the answers. These things I remember. There's things I remember and things I don't. I know I don't remember his voice, but I remember long car rides in the cold, rock music, crab legs, Carmex, his sweatpants, beanies, and forcing me to get haircuts. I remember he always carried his pager. I remember the last time I seen and talked to him in person, at my graduation in 2008. He asked me what's next for me. I said, I don't know. I have a picture of that moment, and now I'm glad that I do. What I also didn't know was the next time I would see him would be at his funeral years later, where I talked to him and said goodbye for the last time. But he couldn't talk back. As for what I have to say to you, Mr. McDaniel, I don't have much, other than it's unfortunate that whatever has happened in your life has led you to where you are now, and that the consequences of that has turned into immense pain for me, my family, and anyone who knew him. To do something so stupid and pointless is something I don't understand. And this is not a thank you, but all of this has brought me back to my family. Kristen, Bailey, Peyton, Grandma Sandy, and Uncle Greg, and all of Dad's police friends I've met. I love you all, and I am so glad to know you and have you in my life. James Skirnovitz, who is a big policeman and character to some, to me he was just my dad, who I've always wanted to but never really knew. Dad, I wish we had more time together. I hope you would be proud of the man I am now. I love you and I miss you and I always will.
Around 10:30 p.m. on the night of September 3rd, 2020, the actions of 3 individuals changed my life and many other lives forever. That night, David McDaniels, Kevin Robinson, Luis Garcia allegedly set out to perform a robbery. Only instead, they James Skirnovitz and Scott Dingus in cold blood. Over 3 years later, my family, my dad's friends, Scott Dingus's family, and his friends all sit in this courtroom in front of one of the men that pulled the trigger multiple times on our loved one. We are here to finally get the justice and closure we deserve, if closure is what you want to call this. This court hearing will not change the fact that my dad is dead. It will not change the fact that my mom's husband is dead. It will not change the fact that my grandma's son is dead. It will not change the fact that the friend of many of the people standing in this room is dead. And that is why I don't want to use the word closure, because that will never end for me and my family or the people who called my dad a friend. For the last 3 years and for the rest of my life, at every event, holiday, accomplishment that I will ever experience and will ever feel, it'll always feel like someone is missing. And that's because my dad is missing. I will not get the chance to see my dad again, to hug him one last time, to laugh with him one last time, to fight with him one last time, to hear him call me Bird one last time, to tell him that I love him one last time, or to say goodbye to him one last time. My dad was supposed to see me graduate college. My dad was supposed to celebrate my brother's 21st birthday with him. My dad was supposed to be here. My dad will never get to see me or my brothers get married. My dad will never get to meet his grandchildren who may exist one day. My dad will never get to grow old with my mom. My dad will never get to live out the life that he worked so incredibly hard for. And that is because of you, David McDaniels. It is also because of you that in the back of my mind, I will always be absolutely terrified of something happening to my mom or one of my brothers. I currently live with my mom and my younger brother, and up until very recently, I would truly hate when one of them would leave the house. I used to find myself in a panic if they weren't home or if I didn't know where they were. I would not go to sleep until I knew that both of them were home. If they didn't come home, I would call and ask where they were and when they would be home. My mind would automatically assume the worst if they weren't home when I thought they would be, or if one of them did not answer their phone the first time that I called. If another family member called me, my mind instantly went into that panic mode, and before answering, I would prepare to hear that something horrible happened to one of them.
2 men, September 3rd, 2020, being served 25 years for each of their murders. That is not justice. That is not fair. No sentence will ever suffice. You are incapable of understanding the breadth of destruction you caused that night. I want you to feel the fear and panic when you tapped out when the 3 youths tried to attack them. I want you to feel the terror they felt, knowing that they couldn't escape your shower of bullets piercing their bodies. I want you to feel the desperation they felt, gasping for their last breath. I want you to feel the emotional torment I felt telling Jim's mom, brother, and our kids that Jim was. I want you to feel the physical weakness we all felt as we nearly collapsed into each other's embrace in the parking lot next to that night. I want you to feel the absolute sickness and heartache you bestowed upon hundreds, maybe even thousands of people who loved Jim and Scott. Scott's life was no less valuable than Jim's, but the remainder of my focus today is on the man unknown was. You learned his life was dedicated. Whose life was dedicated to preventing people like you from becoming people like you. And whose life was dedicated to protecting people like you from people like you. A few weeks after you, I decided to write a victim impact statement, knowing you would eventually arrive at this day. I plan to write a statement every 2 weeks to review the evolution of my feelings about you and the others involved in murder and aftermath. Several weeks later, as I sat to write a second version of the statement, I decided none of you are worth one more moment of my time. Not one more thought in my mind. I never wrote another statement until today. Today will be the last time you intrude on my life. It's nearly 3 years later, and I finally wrote the second version, the final version. I don't mourn the murder committed that night. That would mean including you in my mourning. You don't exist to me. I mourn your breath and horribly premature absence of that Jim. I miss Jim when I wake up and the arms are not around me. When I'm brushing my teeth and Jim's not next to me doing the same. When I leave for work and Jim's not there to say bye. When I look at my phone and there's no missed call or text from Jim. When I go to the grocery store and I don't pick up a cup of American ice cream. When there's a football game and he's not yelling at the TV or on the phone holding over a play-by-play play with his friends. I miss Jim when I drive his truck and listen to the last CD he left in the player. I miss Jim when I wear his favorite hoodies, but I can no longer smell him. He misses him so much when I look at our kids and I see Jim smiling back at me. Take a look at the obvious imbalance of support in this courtroom today. You see, Jim was everything to a lot of people. He was everything to me. He was everything to his family. And he was everything to his friends. You are nothing but a piece.
Some suspects may experience remorse, but did David feel that way or not?
I want everybody to know that on that night, it wasn't a planned thing. It wasn't set up to kill anybody. I know that my actions, my decision I made that night can be changed. I wish every night block of the street, every night block of the street, that I wish it wouldn't happen. I wish that could change it, but I can't. I won't go to the victim count because I can feel the part of it. I know that my safety bring back love. Can't fix it, man. And I apologize for that. I didn't feel know that I was a kid when it happened. I was a kid. Yes, I was 18 talking to a kid. I never went into that 6 times to nobody. I'm not a bad person. I didn't get a bad citizen. Yes, you only hate me, and I'm serious. I do. Look at my ticket. It change anything in the house. If it could, we want to sing it right now. I won 3 times that day. Both victims in my own. No, nobody deserves. Nobody deserves to believe me. But I'm aware that I know that I actually should apologize. That night, from that night forward, they figured not, I lost sleep. I didn't eat. Every night, I was thinking I'm dead, thinking about times that I won't live. Thinking about the way if I knew that would happen, it wouldn't happen. But I did, and it did, and I sincerely apologize. There's nothing I can say to do to change my life, and I wish I could do it. But you can't. I'm sorry for that. Thank you.
After reviewing the evidence, the judge gave David a suitable punishment.
As to count 1, aggravated murder, that will be a life imprisonment with eligibility for parole after 25 years. As to count 2, aggravated murder, life imprisonment with parole eligibility after 25 years. As to count 9, aggravated robbery, felony of the 1st degree, that will be 11 years at the Lorraine Correctional Institution. Sir, because you qualify for what is known as the Reagan-Stokes Law, which I'll note your lawyer's objection to, you are going to receive 2 sentences. You will receive what's called a definite sentence of 11 years, and you're subject to an indefinite sentence of 16 and a half years as it relates to count 9. Sir, there is a rebuttable presumption that the defendant shall be released from the service of the sentence at the expiration of the minimum term or presumptive early release date, whichever is earlier. That the DRC may rebut presumption if at hearing held under 2967.271, DRC may specify determinations regarding the offender's conduct while confined, the offender's threat to society, the offender's restricted housing, if any, while confined, and the offender's security classification. That if, as described in Division 2, DRC at the hearing makes a specified determination and rebuts the presumption, they may maintain the offender's incarceration after the expiration of the minimum term or after the presumptive firm early release date for the length of time DRC determined to be reasonable, subject to the limitations specified in Section 2967.271. That the Department may make the specified determinations and maintain the offender's incarceration under the provisions described in Division B2C2 and Division 3 of this section more than one time, subject to the limitation specified in Section 2967.271. That if the offender has not been released prior to the expiration of the offender's maximum prison term imposed as part of the sentence, the offender must be released upon the expiration of that term. As to count 10, aggravated robbery, felony of the 1st degree, that will be an 11-year sentence at the Lorraine Correctional Institution. Pursuant to the plea agreement, count 9 and 10 shall run consecutive to one another. The court finds that a consecutive sentence is appropriate pursuant to revised code 2929-19B2B and 2929-14C4. The court further finds that it is necessary to punish the offender, protect the public from future crime, and is not disproportionate to the seriousness of the conduct and the danger posed by the defendant. that one or more offenses were committed while offender was awaiting trial, non-community control sanctions, or post-release control, or that two or more offenses are part of one or more courses of conduct, and that the harm caused is so great or unusual that a single prison term would not adequately reflect the seriousness of the conduct. Pursuant to the agreement, counts 1 and 2 shall run consecutive to each other, and again, citing 29-29-19 BCB and 29-29.14 C4, the court finds that it is necessary to punish the offender, protect the public from future crime, and it is not disproportionate to the seriousness of the conduct and danger posed by the defendant, as two or more offenses are part of one or more courses of conduct, and that the harm here certainly is so great or unusual that a single prison term would not adequately reflect the seriousness of the conduct and certainly simply demean the seriousness of these actions. Therefore, again, it will be consecutive sentences to count 1 and count 2. Counts 9 and 10 shall run consecutive to each other, concurrent to count 1, the aggravated murder. As it relates to count 9 and 10, if ever applicable, called post-release control, and that would be a mandatory minimum of 2 years up to a maximum of 5 years of post-release control. That means, sir, that the adult parole authority and not this court would supervise you. They would then supervise you for a period of 2 years up to a maximum of 5 years. The adult parole system would give you terms and conditions you must follow. Should you fail to meet the terms and conditions of the adult parole authority, then they can modify and or extend your supervision and make it more restrictive. They can incarcerate you for up to 1/2 the original sentence imposed by this court. If you fail to appear for them, they can charge you with a new offense called escape, another felony, where you face additional prison time. And if you commit new crimes while on post-release control, you can face the maximum penalty under the law for new crimes committed. Your sentence then, sir, will be life imprisonment with first eligibility of parole after serving 50 full years. You will be given credit for jail time in the amount of 948 days, and any days will be transport. I will waive any remaining fines, fees, or costs. You certainly are now indigent, and you will receive any jail time credit for waiver transport. Is there anything else that we need to do on the record in the state?
On behalf of the state, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything else we need to do?
Nothing on behalf of the defense, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, and thank you very much for all the sorry for all the losses.
Chris Kyle and Chad Littlefield met their tragic end on February 2, 2013, under the Lone Star Sky of Texas, due to bullets fired by Ray Routh, who was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Everyone will eventually die.
Yeah, that's not how I ever really knew Chris. The whole time I was with him, he was clean-shaven until, after he got out, then he grew a beard.
State's Exhibit 124.
Sorry, that's Chris and me and our son, and I just found out I was pregnant with my daughter.
So what year would this have been?
It was September of 2005.
Do you know where that's taken?
I do. It was in Scottsdale, Arizona.
State's Exhibit 123. Take a minute if you need to.
Sorry.
Where is this?
I was outside our house on Easter morning, Chris hiding Easter eggs for the kids.
I guess some people might notice he's got this this shirt on, and I don't know if the jury can read it from the photographs where they are. What is there's a symbol on the shirt, but it also says something on the shirt. What does the shirt say?
On the left hand, or it's his right, but as we're looking at on the left-hand side, it says Fitco Cares, and the
While we're on the subject, can you tell us what is Fitco Cares?
So Fitco Cares, Chris always had this idea when he got out of the military that he wanted to help other people recover, and working out was his best outlet for stress, the healthiest thing, helped him get his mind, feeling better. And so he had the good fortune, it sort of felt like divine intervention at the time, to meet Jason Kose, who was owner of Fitco. And Jason had just had an experience a couple weeks before where he felt like God was pushing him to do something more. And so when he heard Chris's idea, being an owner of a fitness company, he could get the equipment to veterans and their families. So they started the foundation that Chris would, his goal was to have them take it and run it, and they did.
Okay. Basically, just in easiest terms we can, what does Fitco Cares do?
Okay. Gets gym equipment to veterans so that they can work out and have a healthy outlet.
Okay. And why was that, I guess, why were they giving gym equipment to veterans? Why not just give them a gym membership?
Oh, thank you. Chris and I both found like we just preferred to be at home working out if we could, and a lot of the guys who come back severely wounded are either burned or have deformities, prosthetics and things that when they're in, let's say, Walter Reed, and they're around a lot of other guys who have those same type of injuries, they feel totally normal. But sometimes when they go home and they're in an environment where they're the only one, they feel like they're getting stared at or looked at. And so it's just another reason why not to go to the gym. So the idea is get it in their homes where they can do it on their own time.
Would Fitco Cares give gym equipment, not just to the veterans, but so their families could use it as well?
Yeah, they did do it for some of the families, and in fact, even I think they tried to start giving it to a couple of widows and Gold Star mothers. Gold Star being somebody who's lost their son.
So he's got on the Fitco Care shirt. I guess this is what we're talking about here. And then there's a symbol here. I think we're actually going to see it in a second photograph. But just back before we get off on another picture, he said Easter morning, and this would have been after 2010, like about what year?
This was it was April 2012.
So the Easter boy died.
Correct.
Now let me show you State's Exhibit 128, and in this photograph, I guess he's in the military here.
Actually, no, that was after he got out and was running Craft International. They were doing a photo shoot with a company that sells tactical gear.
Okay, so this is a posed picture.
Yes.
Okay. But we also see in this one the symbol on his shirt and on the sleeve of this guy that's with him here.
Correct.
Which is the same one, I guess, that we saw.
We should take mental disorders seriously. However, in the interrogation room, the aim is to determine whether potentially dangerous criminals might try to use them as an excuse.
Yeah, I did use some tobacco today. And some other kind of drugs. That's true, right? Pure adrenaline, yes. Yeah. I've been running on pure adrenaline for a couple days now straight. This is one of the first time I've got to feel safe with up here at this police station. Right. With more police around me. Yeah, I was kind of looking at your eyes a little bit constricted. I thought maybe you might have used some methamphetamine or something today. I have not. Oh, you have not? I did not. Okay. Have you used it? I've been having such a hard time sleeping because I haven't been taking drugs. And I can't sleep at night. Well, who can sleep in that world? The Sandman keeps winning, you know what I mean? I tell what I know is right to get out the front door. Well, it just keep coming back in my ass. 5 minutes more. Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you, Eddie, have you ever used methamphetamine before? Never. Drugs are what's bringing us into these wars anyways. I know it is. It's about what drugs can get done the fastest by the quickest drug lords will. It's not about that, it's about getting everybody healthy together, you know. You can eat souls when you're down here, you know, the ones that you're given. But you can never make any more after the true souls are gone, you know. Once all the true souls are gone, you're fucked. About what time did this happen? Maybe out there in your range? I don't know, maybe around 2 o'clock or so. And after you, what did you do next? I fled. I didn't know what else to do. My adrenaline was so high, I didn't know what was right, I didn't know what was wrong. I mean, I know what was right now that I left, you know. You feel bad about that? What's your dad's birthday? 9/30/87. I gotta get these cuffs off the back of my neck. Before I keep strangling my folks on that stuff. The wall ain't that thick in here. Or heavy. Yeah. You know, man, I know what you mean. Is there anything you'd like to say to the families?
But as I begin to preview the evidence for you, understanding what I say is not evidence, we're going to ask you to hear the evidence and let it guide you. But I do want to give you a preview of the core issues that we believe are in the case and what evidence we believe is going to address those issues. Yes, indeed, we believe the evidence is going to establish that in Erath County, on February 2nd, 2013, this defendant intentionally caused the death of Chad Hudson Littlefield, and that this defendant intentionally caused the death of Chris Powell, and that he did so in the same criminal transaction. We expect to present evidence of all of that. But in the end, we believe the key evidence that's going to guide you is going to guide you on 2 critical issues. And that is, did he intentionally cause the death of these 2 men? And when he did so, did he know what he was doing was wrong? Those are the 2 ultimate issues we're going to ask you to decide. Now, as you learned in voir dire, burden of proving the first question is upon the state. Every element of that indictment we have to prove. The key issue you're going to decide is when he shot these men, was it intentional and knowing causing his death? Did he intentionally and knowingly cause Chad Hudson Littlefield? And did he intentionally and knowingly cause the death of Christopher Powell? We believe the evidence is going to guide you that way. When you look at that, you're going to decide, as the defense proved to you, that when he did that, when he intentionally caused these men, he had a severe mental disease or defect, which caused him to not know that what he was doing was wrong. Now, the Jane previewed for you the other day, that is a very, very narrow door that they have to tread in order to convince you that once we have proven to you through our evidence, we think the evidence will guide you to this. Once we have proved that he intentionally or knowingly caused the death of these 2 men, we have to hold them to that very, very narrow path for him to get away. But that is a heavy burden to me that they must be for him to get away. So that brings me to one. Now, we're not going to preview every piece of evidence and every bit of testimony, but I do want to hit some of the important points that are going to be presented about, again, the defendant's conduct before this crime was committed, during the commission of the crime, and following the commission of the crime. Because the good news for you is you are people of common sense. And you get to use that common sense in analyzing those 2 issues. Did he intentionally cause their And when he did so, did he know what he was doing was wrong? Let's work through some of the evidence. And this is information that you should know at this point. And the evidence is going to step by step establish this. On the morning of February 2nd, 2013, Chad Hudson Littlefield, a daddy with a 7-year-old little girl, a son, a husband, and a brother, was having an ordinary Saturday. He planned to go have time out at a shooting sports range with his very best friend, Christopher Scott Powell, a daddy to an 8-year-old little boy and a 6-year-old little girl, a husband, a son, and a brother. They've done this many times before. They were best buddies. And the evidence is going to show you that one of the passions that they had, one of the things they most enjoyed doing together, was befriending, spending time with veterans, people who served. And they had planned that day to do that with a young man they had yet to meet, the defendant. We expect the evidence to show the defendant served in the Marine Corps for a number of years. We expect the evidence to show that he served in the green zone of Iraq. We expect in the safe zone as an armorer working on. He was very familiar with. He was a marksman. He knew how to use it. And then he also served at sea as a Marine on ships. And then he served in disaster relief in Haiti for a time where he spent time on a ship awaiting service if needed. The job being an armorer, someone who works on it. And he went down. He got out of the military, and these men were approached by his mother, would you spend time with him, would you befriend him? And that was their plan that morning, February 2nd, a Saturday. Two best friends are going to befriend another man and spend time with him doing what men like to do. That is, go out and be men.
The more sensational the case, the heavier the burden on the jury. However, in this instance, the jury diligently fulfilled their duties.
All right, the record reflects the jury's returned to the courtroom at this time. Ms. Stafford, you're the foreperson of the jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
I've been advised that the jury has reached a verdict in this matter. Is this correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you'll hand that verdict form to the bailiff, please, ma'am. Mr. Routh, if you'll please stand. All right, we, the jury, find the defendant Eddie Ray Routh guilty of the felony offense of capital murder as charged in the indictment. That verdict is signed by Ms. Stafford as foreperson of the jury. You may be seated at this time. You wish to have the jury polled?
Yes, Judge.
All right, the request to have the jury polled has been made at this time. What I will do at this point is individually we'll start at the first seat, first juror, and I will ask you the same question of each and every juror. Is this a unanimous verdict of the jury? You have to answer out loud.
Yes.
Juror number 2, is this a unanimous verdict? Yes. Juror number 3, is this a unanimous verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 4?
Yes, sir.
Juror number 5?
Yes, sir.
Juror number 6?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 7?
Yes, sir.
Juror number 8?
Yes.
Juror number 9?
Yes, sir.
Juror number 10?
Yes.
Juror number 11?
Yes, sir.
And juror number 12?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, this completes your services, jurors, in this matter, and I will receive and accept your verdict in this matter. I will hand it to the clerk to have it filed with the papers of the court at this time. All right, Mr. Routh, if you'll please stand again. Having received and accepted the jury's verdict in this matter, by statute, I will now impose sentence in this matter at confinement for life in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice without the possibility of parole. That's the verdict of this court, and I will enter judgment accordingly. You may be seated at this time again. I will continue, Mr. St. John, as your attorney in this matter with regard to your rights to appeal, and that includes a direct appeal to the Eastland Court of Appeals. That's the home of the 11th Court of Appeals, which is the court for this jurisdiction, and also your rights with regard to filing a petition for discretionary review with the Court of Criminal Appeals in Texas. I will remand your custody to the Sheriff of Erath County to carry out the imposition of the judgment of this court and the jury's verdict in this matter. Do you have any legal reason to state at this time why a sentence should not be imposed?
I would submit the court is legally insane, therefore cannot receive the verdict, otherwise no, Judge.
Finding nothing in bar thereof, I will now enter judgment and remand your custody to the Sheriff of Erath County to carry out the imposition of this sentence and judgment of this court in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Now then, turning back to my jury. Certainly appreciate your effort in this matter. I have constantly talked to you about the rules and what you can and can't do. From this point forward, I have no other control over you. I'm discharging you from those rules and obligations. I want to talk to you briefly about that. You're free to discuss this case with anyone at this point, or to not discuss the case. That's certainly up to you. I want to issue a statement to you, and that is that the lawyers in this matter are professionals, and they're not going to bother you about your verdict. I can assure you of that. Should anybody else attempt to bother you about your verdict, you make it known immediately to any one of these officers of these court, the bailiff or anybody in here, and we'll get it stopped quick, fast, and in a hurry. I have been asked by the media, as you understand this has been a high-profile matter, that they want to talk to you.
Eddie Ray Routh was sentenced to life in prison for his crimes. Big thanks to our viewers for joining the courtroom journey with us. Your interest in the stories of justice is what keeps our channel alive.